Azerbaijan's president has made an extraordinary opening address at the Global Climate Change Summit in his capital city. The leader of the petrol-state called the oil and gas reserves in his country a gift from God and said he'd continue to take it to market. The United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres sat uncomfortably throughout the speech, then kicked delegates into gear with a rousing one of his own. COP climate change summits usually open with ambitious statements from the host country about curbing emissions and reducing the world's reliance on fossil fuels. But not this time. In fact, at COP29, oil was almost worshipped.
It's a gift of the God. Every natural resource, whether it's oil, gas, wind, sun, gold, silver, copper, all that are natural resources. And countries should not be blamed for having them and should not be blamed for bringing these resources to the market, because the market needs them. The people need them.
Azerbaijan's 62-year-old authoritarian president has been in power for more than 2 decades. In the oil-rich nation, fossil fuels make up 90% of his country's export income. It accounts for 2/3 of Azerbaijan's GDP. That's even more than last year's COP host, the United Arab Emirates, whose leader drew criticism for questioning the science around emissions reduction. Today, President Aliyev was unapologetic about his country's use of its natural resources and said Azerbaijan was a victim of Western fake news, NGOs and politicians spreading misinformation.
We became a target of coordinated, well-orchestrated campaign of slander and blackmail. To accuse us that we have oil is the same like to accuse us that we have more than 250 sunny days a year in Baku.
The head of the United Nations looked on and then hit back, describing 2024 as a masterclass in human destruction.
The most vulnerable are being abandoned to climate extremes. The gap between adaptation needs and finance could reach up to $359 billion a year by 2030. And these missing dollars are not abstractions on a balance sheet. They are lives taken, harvests lost, and development denied.
Representatives from nearly 200 countries have gathered at COP29. Sir Keir Starmer committed the UK to a new big target by 2035.
To reduce all greenhouse gas emissions by at least 81% on 1990 levels. But a global problem also requires global partnership, which is why we urge all parties to come forward with ambitious targets of their own.
But leadership is lacking at COP29. At the traditional photograph, only 2 G7 leaders were present. France, Germany, Japan, Canada and the US all absent. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon won't be attending either.
There is a direct link between increasing emissions and increasingly frequent and intense climate disasters. Around the world, people are paying a terrible price. Record emissions mean record sea temperatures, supercharging monster hurricanes. Record heat is turning forests into tinder boxes and cities into saunas. Record rains are resulting in biblical floods.
The major focus of these talks is to reach a deal where major polluters pay those on the front lines. $40 billion a year is the official goal. Developing countries want $1 trillion a year. But the EU's lead negotiator wasn't promising anything.
Are you confident there'll be a finance deal this COP of all COPs?
We'll see. We'll see. The jury is out.
Optimistic? Hope?
It's going to be a steep climb, but we'll see.
One of the most influential figures at these talks said lessons from recent disasters need to be learnt.
That we're all in this together and that there's no division between people and planet, and there's no division on planet between those who will suffer.
In the petro-state, where you can literally bathe in crude oil as a spa treatment, its president has damaged the credibility of the talks from day one, with many wondering why on earth it's being held there.